Why do you make these?
To hold the souls of burglars when they died. Or salesmen, workmen, other people who saw too much.
Hello Scenesters, welcome back for part 2 of our Halloween special. This month at Psychology and Movies we will be doing all horror, Halloween, or just overall weird and spooky movies, and of course, use them as examples to help explain psychology, anthropology, or mental health topics. And today we have one that's kind of all of the above. Today we have a movie that I couldn't wait any longer to talk about. I felt I needed to jump on this one now. And that movie is The People Under the Stairs. And we will be talking about what I feel are the movie's two strongest themes, Rites of Passage, or Rites of Initiation, however you want to say it, and the always hot-button topic of class warfare, demonstrated very frequently within the film. As always, I want to thank you for clicking this video. If you're new, that's great, and if you're returning, even better. My whole point of this channel is to get people curious and spread enthusiasm about these movies with the hopes that maybe you'll check them out, while at the same time providing hopefully interesting, helpful, or motivational knowledge about strong themes within movies. In my opinion, movies are some of the best ways to tell stories, spread messages, or explain things, so that's why we love discussing film. So, before we get into our feature movie, let's give a little context and then talk about our topics for a little bit, just to give a very general introduction. For starters, this movie was inspired by a real-life event. In 1978, two burglars broke into a home in Los Angeles and found two children that had been locked up in this heavily secured home. The two children had never been allowed to go outside even once in their lives. Director Wes Craven said he wanted to bring an element of reality to his scary movies, as well as provide a little bit of social and political commentary, because he was always fascinated, and I think equally disgusted, at a situation where such violent proceedings were going on in the middle of this overall middle-class neighborhood. Rites of Passage, or Rites of Initiation, are different types of cultural practices that take place in various forms across all different cultures, usually to usher adolescents into adulthood. Right around the ages of 13 to 15, or whenever the culture thinks someone is ready for adulthood or increased responsibility, they will perform a type of ritual or ceremony, sometimes spanning several days, to get the young person, and normally it's men, but in some cultures these rites of passage rituals are for women also. Anyway, to get the young person more ready for adulthood, and for facing the challenges that adulthood brings. Probably the most typical rites of passage at the time of this video are bar mitzvahs and high school graduations. Maybe marriage. The quinceañera in Hispanic culture could be considered a rite of passage. Baptism could be. Most rites of initiation in the modern world aren't physically challenging or painful, but some can be quite brutal. Take for instance the Satere Mawe tribe in Brazil, where they make participants wear gloves lined with angry bullet ants that guarantee hundreds of the most painful stings in the world. Traditional Muay Thai fighting is a huge rite of passage in Thailand. These things might seem brutal to some, but they have played a huge part in ensuring the preservation and strength of their culture. You see, historically the rites of initiation that show the most impact meaning lowering delinquent tendencies, increased community involvement and engagement, positive effects on self-esteem and confidence, higher reported happiness and satisfaction. All of these things are reported more in cultures with rigorous, or just downright brutal, rites of passage or rites of initiation. And this is important to note because our culture has really shifted away from all of this. And our other theme is class warfare, which is a political science term. And it basically refers to tensions and economic disputes that exist between social classes as a result of clashing interests. It can look like assassination attempts or revolutions in its most incendiary forms, but the most typical byproduct of class warfare is poverty, drug addiction, and homelessness. The 1980s and leading into the 90s were a decade of gross economic inequality, with Wall Street and big tech booming, but with inner cities struggling and decaying. The 80s, and even a lot of the 90s cinema reflects this. Our movie is about a boy named Poindexter, but nicknamed Fool, right at the cusp between being a little kid and starting to be an adult and take on more responsibilities. And he's having to grow up very quickly because he lives in a not-so-good part of town and his family is very vulnerable with no man to protect them. But because his mother is sick and his family is about to be evicted, Fool has no other option and is basically forced into criminal behavior, and so they convince him to break into his landlord's home looking for an expensive coin collection. And once he's inside, the movie really begins because he finds himself trapped and that getting out is a lot harder than getting in. So what about our themes? This movie always appealed to me as a kid because it's not very often you see children outwit and outcompete adults in movies. It is a genre, but at the time, there weren't many films to fill up a shelf dedicated to that theme. I think Brandon Quintin Adams' performance as Fool really stands out for its humble earnestness. Even though his character is so quick-thinking and capable, there's this layer of humanity and vulnerability to him. And his whole character arc is about embracing adult responsibility, maybe even too early, and becoming a man. There you go, punch that dog.
What is it, boy?
Oh shit! There you go. Fuck this dude up. I like the fact that his primary motivation is to keep a roof over his family's head, and we see little glimpses of how caring and responsible he is. You really get a sense of what a good kid he is. And his rite of initiation is risking his life to go into the unknown of the Robeson house, where once inside, he abandons his known network of support and has to rely entirely on himself and his environment. This mimics the difficulty and terror of so many other rites of initiation. In the modern world, the first day of school, going to large concerts or sporting events, maybe large church gatherings, might be the closest some people ever get to that intense feeling you get from a real rite of passage. I mean, Fool's life is being threatened, so it doesn't get any more intense than that. And it's not just my conjecture that this is a theme in the movie. Our movie basically opens with this being foreshadowed. And it's not like the movie foreshadows him coming into wealth or adventure. It specifically is talking about him growing up and shedding childish ways to become a man. Rites of initiation, or rites of passage, are critical in maintaining strong cultural participation and young men developing values, independence, responsibility, work ethic, self-esteem, connection to one's environment. When I was making this video, I had no idea that the topic of rites of initiation was such a discussed topic because there's actually hours upon hours of lecture available on all the importance and benefits of these practices. I know that Fool's not in an official rite of passage that he goes on, but it serves the same function. Societies that don't have strong cultural practices of rites of initiation have all the opposite happen to them. You see value in moral decay, teenage delinquency in gangs, drug abuse, materialism, theft and promiscuity. All of these things to fill the void of that connection to our ancestors and community through rites of passage. Rites of passage, rites of initiation, same thing. You'll notice that Fool doesn't have a father present to guide him or to protect him from things that aren't age appropriate for him. There are many academics, especially in the Black community, that feel there has been a concerted and deliberate effort to promote fatherlessness and single-parent households from the government, to weaken the family unit and create more poverty. You might be asking why anyone would do this, but these are examples of class warfare. In the movie, the Robesons own Fool's building and are threatening to evict him and his family for late rent unless they can pay 3 times the normal fees. This is a type of extortion by charging far unreasonable conditions that are unlikely to be met. And the reason why they are being so difficult and exploitive is because the Robesons want to decrease the value of the area so surrounding land can be bought cheaper, or in this case so they can tear down a building and put up a new one. You also get the idea that they have sped up the decline in the area by managing it poorly and setting up liquor stores and other ill vices to kick the community down the hill even faster. The Robesons are slumlords. They lease out poorly maintained, rotting property, they take advantage of the shortage of housing and overcharge for renting. They basically enter the bargaining agreement in bad faith, not caring about the families that are living in their units. They only care about getting paid, and so these people are not even human to them. And I haven't even gotten to the other crazy shit. You'll notice too, the Robesons are highly religious. One of the weapons of the enemy is to always use the popular doctrine of that area as a bludgeon and as propaganda to justify their self-centeredness. By the way, I've always loved AJ Langer in this role, and before anybody jumps on me, she's older than I am. I was 5 years old when this movie came out, so at no point in any type of history has AJ Langer ever been younger than me. The People Under the Stairs is a really fun but disturbing and memorable fantasy of one boy's rite of passage, as well as him leading a miniature social revolution, just on a very small and local scale. I think that when it's clear people within our government or society are not acting in our best interest, at a certain point we have to take a stand, otherwise nothing will happen. We have to be like Alice in the movie, who eventually wakes up and starts fighting back even though she's scared, because it's her only chance. I'm Movie Review Justin. If you've gotten this far, I would appreciate it if you liked and subscribed by clicking the buttons below. This is Psychology in Movies. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and informed.
Get back in there!